Let's be honest for a moment. Is getting up from your favorite armchair starting to feel like a major life event? Or maybe you've noticed that a full grocery bag feels a lot heavier than it used to. If you felt this, you are not alone. Researchers have a name for this sneaky thief of strength, sarcopenia. It's the age-related loss of muscle, and it's more common than you might think. After about age 50, we can lose 1 to 2% of our muscle mass every single year. By the time we're 80, some studies show that number can be as high as 50% of the muscle we had in our younger years. But what if I told you that one of the most powerful tools to fight back against this muscle loss isn't some expensive supplement or complicated gym machine? What if it was hiding in plain sight in the grocery aisle and costs less than $2 for a week's supply? And if you've been telling yourself, well, this is just what getting older feels like, I'm here today to respectfully challenge that idea. That feeling of weakness is not a life sentence. In the next 25 minutes, we are going on a deep dive. We're going to uncover the 10 hidden culprits that are secretly stealing your strength day by day. And most importantly, we'll reveal the simple, delicious breakfast habit that one major clinical study found can start rebuilding that lost muscle in seniors in a matter of weeks. The problem we're tackling today is sarcopenia. The National Institute on Aging defines it as the age-related loss of muscle mass, strength, and function. It's the reason simple tasks become harder, our balance feels less certain, and our risk for falls and injury increases. It can chip away at our independence and our confidence. Our goal today is not just to understand it, but to give you a practical, powerful toolkit to fight it. To do that, we're not relying on hearsay or old wives' tales. We'll be drawing on research and guidelines from some of the most trusted institutions in America, including Johns Hopkins Medicine, the Mayo Clinic, and the U.S. government's own National Institute on Aging. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to count down the top 10 surprising culprits that accelerate muscle loss. For each one, we'll talk about why it happens in simple, plain English, and then I'll give you a clear, no-nonsense action step you can take. We'll start at number 10 and work our way down to the biggest culprit of all. You'll definitely want to stick around for number 2. It's a common mistake many of us make every single day without a second thought. And the big reveal at number 1 will be the breakfast bean from our title, a food with stunning scientific evidence behind it for rebuilding muscle in folks just like you. And a quick but important reminder, I am not a doctor. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice from your personal physician. Always consult your healthcare provider for any questions about your health. All right, let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is something so basic, we often forget how critical it is: dehydration. You see, our muscles are made of about 75% water. It's not just filler. Think of it like this. A well-hydrated muscle is like a plump, responsive grape. It's full, it's resilient, and it works efficiently. But a dehydrated muscle is like a raisin. It's smaller, it's stiffer, and it's far less powerful. Dehydration can also throw off your body's balance of electrolytes, like sodium and potassium. When that happens, the electrical signals that tell your muscles to move can get mixed up, leading to those frustrating muscle cramps and a general feeling of weakness. I remember my neighbor, Carol, who always felt sluggish and weak in the afternoons. She was in her late 70s and just chalked it up to her age. But when we talked, it turned out she was drinking coffee all morning and maybe one small glass of water for the rest of the day. Her doctor suggested she focus on her water intake, and she was shocked by the results. Within a week, she told me the cramping in her legs that used to wake her up at night had completely vanished, and she had more get up and go for her afternoon walk with her dog. So your action step here is simple. Don't wait until you're thirsty. As we get older, our thirst mechanism becomes less reliable, so we can't depend on it as a signal. A great strategy is to get a 32-ounce water bottle. Make it your goal to finish it by lunchtime, and then fill it up and finish it again by dinner time. It's about steady, consistent sipping throughout the day, not chugging it all at once. Now, it's important to mention the red flags. Of course, if you're experiencing symptoms like extreme thirst, very dark-colored urine, dizziness, or confusion, those are signs of more serious dehydration, and it's time to call your doctor right away. So, we've covered what you need to drink more of, but what you do with your body is just as important. That brings us directly to culprit number 9. Culprit number 9 is no surprise to any of us, but its impact is truly staggering: a sedentary lifestyle. As the experts at the Mayo Clinic put it so perfectly, when it comes to your muscles, you have to use it or lose it. Our bodies are incredibly efficient, almost to a fault. If you don't regularly challenge your muscles by asking them to do work, like lifting, pushing, or even just carrying your own body weight, your brain gets a clear signal. These muscles aren't essential for survival. It then begins a process of breaking down that expensive muscle tissue to conserve energy. This is precisely why inactive people can lose up to 3 to 5% of their muscle mass each decade after the age of 30. And it's not just about skipping the gym. Recent studies are showing that prolonged sitting, even if you get some exercise at other times of the day, is independently associated with a higher risk of sarcopenia. Your muscles need consistent signals throughout the day that they are essential, that they are needed. I want you to think about an astronaut returning from a long mission in space. After weeks of living in a weightless environment, they can barely stand on their own. Their bodies, not needing to fight against gravity, allowed their powerful leg and back muscles to wither away. Spending too much time in a comfortable chair is our own personal slow-motion version of weightlessness. It's sending a message to our leg muscles, our back muscles, and our core that they can take a permanent vacation. So, what's the action step? The National Institute on Aging recommends a mix of activities, but the simplest place to start is to fight what I call chair gravity. Set a timer on your watch or your kitchen stove for every 30 to 60 minutes. When that timer goes off, simply stand up. You don't have to do a full workout. Just march in place for a minute. Reach for the ceiling. Do a few gentle stretches. The goal is simply to break up long periods of sitting. And remember, everyday activities count. Things like gardening, sweeping the floor, or taking a walk to the mailbox all send that crucial use-it signal to your muscles. Of course, there are red flags here, too. If you have significant pain when you move, severe balance issues, or feel very short of breath, please talk to your doctor or a physical therapist before starting any new activity program. They are experts at helping you find a safe and effective starting point that's right for you. Now, being active is crucial for sending the build signal to your muscles, but that signal is useless if the repair crew doesn't show up to do the work. And that brings us to what happens, or what should be happening, at night with culprit number 8. Coming in at number 8 is the silent saboteur of muscle health: poor or insufficient sleep. Many of us think of exercise as the time when we build muscle, but that's not quite right. Exercise is when we create the stimulus for muscle growth. The actual repair and rebuilding happens when we rest. Specifically, it happens during the deep stages of sleep, when your body releases a flood of something called human growth hormone, or HGH. This is the master hormone for muscle repair and growth. When you don't get enough quality, deep sleep, you are literally shortchanging your body's HGH release. At the very same time, a lack of sleep keeps your levels of the stress hormone cortisol elevated. Cortisol is what scientists call a catabolic hormone, which is a fancy way of saying it actively promotes muscle breakdown. So poor sleep delivers a devastating double whammy. It blocks the primary build hormone and promotes the primary breakdown hormone. You simply can't win that battle. A good way to think about it is trying to have a road crew fix potholes on a busy highway during rush hour. It's impossible. There's too much traffic, too much chaos. The real work has to be done overnight, when the road is clear and the crew can work without interruption. Sleep is your body's overnight. It's the only time the repair crew can really get to work and rebuild the damage from the day. Your action step is to treat your sleep with the respect it deserves. Prioritize good sleep hygiene. This means aiming for a consistent bedtime and wake-up time, even on the weekends. It means making your bedroom a cool, dark, and quiet sanctuary. And it means avoiding the bright blue light from screens, like TVs, tablets, and phones, for at least an hour before you plan to go to sleep. The red flag to watch for here is any sign of a potential sleep disorder, like sleep apnea. If you or your partner have noticed that you snore very loudly, gasp for air during the night, or feel excessively sleepy during the day, despite spending enough time in bed, it's crucial to get a medical evaluation. This condition can have serious health consequences that go far beyond just muscle loss. So we need sleep to release the right hormones for repair. But for our muscles to even function correctly in the first place, they need a very specific nutrient that, unfortunately, many of us are low in. This leads us directly to culprit number 7. At number 7, we have a widespread problem that affects an estimated 40% of American adults, with the risk getting even higher as we age: vitamin D deficiency. Most of us have heard about vitamin D being important for our bones, and that's absolutely true. But what's often overlooked is that it's just as critical for our muscles. Your muscle cells are dotted with specific receptors for vitamin D. Think of them as tiny keyholes. When vitamin D, the key, fits into these locks, it helps maintain the size of your muscle fibers and allows your muscles to contract properly and with force. When you're deficient in vitamin D, your muscles simply can't function at their best. It can lead to that frustrating feeling of weakness, vague aches and pains, and poor balance. It's like trying to start your car with a weak, dying battery. The engine might be perfectly fine, but it just doesn't have the electrical spark it needs to get going. Vitamin D provides that essential spark for proper muscle function. I have a friend, Richard, who is in his late 70s. He was having a terrible time with his balance and had become very afraid of falling, which was limiting his activities. His doctor decided to run some routine blood work and discovered that Richard's vitamin D levels were critically low. After a few months of following his doctor's prescription for supplementation, Richard called me, and he was amazed. He said, "It's like someone turned the lights back on in my legs. I just feel more solid on my feet." The action step for this one is clear and simple. Get your levels checked. The next time you see your doctor, ask for a blood test for 25-hydroxyvitamin D. It's the only way to know for sure if you're deficient. If you are, your doctor will recommend the right dose of supplementation for you. In addition to sunlight, you can also support your levels by eating foods rich in vitamin D, like fatty fish such as salmon, as well as egg yolks and fortified products like milk and orange juice. The red flag here is that the symptoms of vitamin D deficiency, like general fatigue and muscle aches, are so vague that it's easy to dismiss them as just getting older. If you're experiencing these feelings, especially if you have limited sun exposure or are over the age of 65, it's a very good reason to have a conversation with your doctor about getting tested. Vitamin D helps our muscles work correctly, but there's another invisible force that can be actively working to break them down from the inside out. Let's talk about culprit number 6. Culprit number 6 is a condition that researchers have given a telling name: inflammaging. It's chronic, low-grade inflammation. Now, it's important to understand that not all inflammation is bad. When you sprain your ankle, the swelling and redness you see is acute inflammation. It's your body's healing response rushing resources to the site of the injury. That's a good thing. But chronic inflammation is different. It's like a fire alarm in your body that is stuck in the on position, quietly blaring 24 hours a day. Over time, this constant state of alert releases a steady stream of inflammatory molecules into your bloodstream. Molecules with names like C-reactive protein, or CRP, and cytokines like TNF-alpha. Here's the critical part. These molecules are toxic to your muscles. They directly interfere with muscle protein synthesis, the building process, and they actually accelerate muscle protein breakdown, the tearing down process. The best analogy I've heard is to think of it like trying to grow a beautiful garden while a small, constant trickle of weed killer is being sprayed over everything. No matter how much you water or fertilize, the plants will struggle to grow. They'll look weak, and over time, they will slowly wither. So what's the action step? The best way to fight chronic inflammation is through your daily lifestyle choices. Regular, gentle exercise like walking is a powerful, natural anti-inflammatory, and your diet is absolutely key. The goal is to fill your plate with anti-inflammatory foods. Things like colorful fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, and fatty fish like salmon. And as we're going to see very soon, the right kinds of beans are packed with powerful anti-inflammatory compounds and antioxidants. The red flag for this culprit is often the presence of other chronic conditions. Things like rheumatoid arthritis, heart disease, or diabetes are often linked with higher levels of chronic inflammation. If you have one of these conditions, working closely with your doctor to manage it as effectively as possible is one of the very best things you can do to control inflammation and protect your muscles from this silent thief. Okay, we're halfway through our countdown. Let's just take a quick breath and recap. So far, we've talked about the foundational culprits. At number 10, dehydration. At number 9, a sedentary lifestyle. Number 8 was poor sleep. Number 7 was vitamin D deficiency. And we just covered number 6, chronic inflammation. The common thread with all of these is that they are often silent factors. They're things that can chip away at your strength day after day, often without you even noticing, until you suddenly realize that grocery bag feels a lot heavier. Now, are you ready for the top 5? This is where we get into the real game changers, the things that have a direct and powerful impact on your body's ability to build and keep the muscle you need to stay independent and strong. And by the way, if you're finding this information valuable, it would mean the world to us if you just take a second to tap that like button below. It's a small click for you, but it tells the folks at YouTube that this is important information, and it helps other people in our community find this video. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's dive into the top 5. Kicking off our top 5 is culprit number 5, age-related hormonal changes. This is a natural part of life, but understanding it gives us the power to counteract it. As we age, it's normal for the levels of certain anabolic, that's the scientific word for building, hormones to decline. For men, this most notably includes testosterone. For women, especially during and after menopause, it's a significant drop in the hormone estrogen. Both of these hormones play a direct and important role in telling your body to maintain its muscle mass. They help to activate your muscle's own stem cells, which are called satellite cells. These are the cells responsible for repairing damage and building new muscle tissue. When the levels of these key hormones drop, that crucial build signal gets weaker and less frequent. Imagine the manager of a busy construction site. In your younger years, that manager is on site every single day, with a megaphone in hand, shouting instructions and telling the crew to build, build, build. As we get older, That manager starts working from home more often. The crew, your muscle cells, is still there and ready to work, but they're just not getting the same strong, consistent instructions to build. As a result, the pace of construction slows way down. So, what's our action step? While we can't just turn back the clock on these natural hormonal changes, we can give our bodies a powerful alternative signal. And the most effective signal we have is resistance training. Lifting weights, using resistance bands, or even doing bodyweight exercises like squats sends a direct and powerful build signal to your muscles. This is why exercise, particularly strength training, becomes more important as we age, not less. The red flag here is to be aware of severe symptoms. If you're experiencing things like extreme, persistent fatigue, significant mood changes, or other symptoms that you think might be related to a hormonal decline, it's absolutely worth discussing with your doctor. They can run tests and determine if something like hormone replacement therapy or other treatments might be an appropriate and safe option for your individual situation. Hormones are powerful signals, but some things we consume can send an equally powerful stop signal to our muscles. And that brings us to culprit number 4. At number 4 is a lifestyle factor that can directly and quickly sabotage all your best efforts: excessive alcohol consumption. Here's the bottom line, based on clear scientific research. Alcohol directly impairs muscle protein synthesis. That's the process of building new muscle. Studies have shown that even a single episode of heavy drinking can decrease the rate of muscle protein synthesis by as much as 15 to 25% in the hours that follow. It does this by disrupting a key signaling pathway in your body known as mTOR. You can think of mTOR as the master on switch for building muscle. When you eat protein and exercise, you flip that switch to on. But alcohol comes along and flips it right back to off. Chronic heavy drinking is even worse and can lead to a condition called alcoholic myopathy, which is a state of severe muscle wasting and weakness. Let's use an analogy. Imagine your muscles are trying to build themselves up after a nice walk or a bit of yard work. The protein you eat is the lumber, all stacked up and ready to be used. The mTOR pathway is the master carpenter, ready to turn that lumber into a strong, new structure. Drinking alcohol is like telling that master carpenter to go home for the day. The lumber might be sitting right there on the job site, but absolutely nothing gets built. The entire repair process grinds to a halt. The action step here is all about moderation. This isn't about saying you can never have a glass of wine with dinner again. In fact, one interesting study that looked at moderate alcohol consumption found that it did not seem to impair the muscle growth that came from an exercise program. The problem is excessive intake. The general guideline from health authorities is no more than 1 drink per day for women and no more than 2 drinks per day for men. And it's especially important to avoid drinking alcohol right after a workout or any strenuous activity, because that is the most critical window for muscle repair. The red flag for this one is a personal check-in. If you're concerned that your alcohol consumption is more than moderate, or if you find it difficult to control your intake, please have an honest conversation with your healthcare provider. There are many excellent resources available to help, and managing your intake is absolutely crucial for your overall health, not just for your muscles. Alcohol can block the door to muscle building from the outside. But there's another condition, one that is incredibly common in older adults, that can also lock that door from the inside. This is our culprit at number 3. Our number 3 culprit is a huge one, a condition that affects millions of Americans, often without them even knowing it. It's insulin resistance. Most of us know that insulin's main job is to move sugar from our bloodstream into our cells to be used for energy. But insulin has another vital job that's often overlooked. It is a powerful anabolic hormone. It acts as a key that helps move amino acids, the essential building blocks from the protein we eat, out of the blood and into our muscle cells to trigger growth and repair. When your muscles become resistant to insulin, it's like the key to the muscle cell's front door gets rusty and bent. Insulin can't open that door effectively anymore. This means that not only does sugar get left floating around in your bloodstream, but those precious amino acids, the building materials for your muscles, also get locked out. Your body simply can't get the raw materials inside the factory to do the repair work. And here's the truly vicious cycle. Losing muscle mass itself can make insulin resistance even worse. That's because our muscles are the primary storage site for the sugar in our blood. When you have less muscle mass, you have less storage space. This can lead to higher blood sugar levels, which in turn leads to more insulin resistance, which leads to more muscle loss. It's a dangerous two-way street where each problem actively feeds the other. The action step here is fantastic news, because the two most powerful ways to improve your body's sensitivity to insulin are the exact same things that build muscle: exercise and diet. Resistance training and aerobic exercise make your muscles hungrier for both sugar and protein, essentially helping that rusty key work better in the lock. And on the diet side, focusing on high-fiber foods like fruits, vegetables, and you guessed it, beans, can help control blood sugar spikes and dramatically improve your body's response to insulin. The red flags for insulin resistance are important to know. If you've been told you have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, working closely with your doctor to manage your condition is absolutely paramount for protecting your muscles. And if you're experiencing common symptoms like a sudden increase in thirst, more frequent urination, or unexplained fatigue, ask your doctor about being screened for insulin resistance or diabetes. So we need our bodies to be sensitive to insulin to get protein into the muscle. But even if the door is unlocked, it doesn't matter if we don't deliver the building materials at the right times. And this leads us to the critical mistake at number 2. We're almost at the top of our list. Culprit number 2 is a huge aha moment for most people when they hear it. It's not just how much protein you eat, but when you eat it. The big mistake is uneven protein distribution. Here's a look at a very typical American eating pattern. A small, carbohydrate-heavy breakfast, maybe some toast or a bowl of cereal. A medium-sized lunch, perhaps a sandwich, and then a huge, protein-heavy dinner, like a large piece of chicken or a big steak. The problem with this pattern is that your body has no way to store protein for later use, the way it can store fat or carbohydrates. There's a ceiling on how much protein your muscles can actually use for building and repair at any one time. That magic number seems to be somewhere around 25 to 35 grams. If you eat more than that in one sitting, the excess is largely wasted. To effectively stimulate muscle protein synthesis, you need to hit that target dose multiple times throughout the day. If you only hit that 30-gram target at dinner time, you've essentially told your muscles to go into breakdown mode for the first 2/3 of the day. As one expert from AARP so brilliantly put it, every day is either a muscle gain day or a muscle loss day, and what you eat for breakfast is the determining factor. If you start your day with a low-protein breakfast, you have already put yourself on a muscle loss trajectory for the day, and you simply cannot make up for it with a giant dinner later on. The action step is to learn and practice what experts call protein pacing. Instead of saving all your protein for your evening meal, the goal is to distribute it as evenly as possible throughout the day. Your target should be to get at least 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein at breakfast, at lunch, and at dinner. This simple change keeps a steady supply of amino acids circulating in your bloodstream, constantly giving your muscles both the signal and the materials they need to build and repair all day long. The red flag is your own plate. Take a hard look at what you typically eat for breakfast. Does it contain a significant source of protein, or is it mostly carbohydrates? That's your sign. That's your opportunity to make a powerful change. And this brings us directly to the number one culprit, the very foundation of the problem, and the secret to our $2 breakfast bean. And here we are, the number one reason that so many seniors are losing the battle for their strength. It's the simplest and yet the most profound culprit of all: inadequate total protein intake, especially at the most important meal of the day. As we get older, our bodies experience a phenomenon that scientists call anabolic resistance. In simple terms, this means our muscles become less efficient and less responsive to the protein we eat. A young person might be able to build muscle effectively with a certain amount of protein, but an older person needs more protein to get the exact same muscle-building effect. The standard recommendation for protein, the one many of us grew up with, is about 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But a growing consensus of experts in aging now believes this is the bare minimum for survival and is likely inadequate for seniors who want to maintain strength and vitality. Many now recommend a higher intake of 1.0 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. For a 150-pound person, that works out to be about 68 to 82 grams of protein every day, which is significantly more than many older adults are currently getting. So we know we need more protein overall, and we know from our number two culprit that we desperately need a high-protein breakfast to start the day in a muscle-building state. What is the perfect solution? What is affordable, packed with nutrients, and backed by incredible science? The breakfast bean we're talking about is the soybean, which you probably know in its fresh, green, and delicious form as edamame. Why soybeans? First, and this is critically important, unlike almost all other beans and plant foods, soy is a complete protein. This means it contains all 9 of the essential amino acids that your body cannot make on its own and must get from food to build muscle, just like meat, eggs, or dairy. Second, they are incredibly affordable and versatile. You can find them in the freezer aisle of any grocery store. But here is the most stunning part. This is the science that ties it all together. A recent randomized clinical trial, published in the peer-reviewed journal Nutrition, took a group of seniors with an average age of 85 and for 12 weeks had them eat soy protein-rich meals. The results were nothing short of astounding. Compared to the group that ate a regular diet, the soy protein group gained an average of 1.2 kilograms. That's 2.6 pounds of pure skeletal muscle mass. They also significantly improved their walking distance and overall mobility. Let that sink in. They didn't just slow down muscle loss. They actively reversed it. They rebuilt lost muscle. So here is your number one action step. Make edamame a breakfast staple. A single cup of shelled edamame provides around 18 grams of high-quality complete protein. You can buy a large bag frozen for just a couple of dollars. In the morning, you can gently steam a cup in the microwave or on the stovetop, add a pinch of salt, and eat it alongside a piece of whole wheat toast or with an egg. Or you can blend it into a smoothie with some fruit and a splash of milk. That one simple change can get you well on your way to hitting your 30-gram breakfast protein goal and ensuring you start every single day as a muscle gain day. For the vast majority of people, soy is a perfectly healthy and beneficial food. If you have a specific soy allergy or an existing thyroid condition, it's always best to discuss any significant dietary changes with your doctor first. So as we've seen today, reclaiming your strength isn't about finding one single magic pill. It's about understanding the system. It's about hydrating your muscles, moving your body every day, getting that deep, restorative sleep, and fighting back against silent inflammation. It's about being mindful of how hormones, insulin, and alcohol intake affect your body. And most importantly, it's about fueling your body with the right amount of high-quality protein at the right times of the day. The key message I want you to leave with today is this: you are the chief executive of your own health. The natural process of aging might be the wind, but your daily choices are the rudder of the ship. You have the power to steer yourself toward a future of strength, independence, and vitality. The science is clear. You can not only slow muscle loss, you can reverse it. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 10 culprits was the biggest aha moment for you? Was it the importance of sleep, the idea of protein pacing, or something else entirely? Please, leave a comment down below. I read every single one, and your story and your insights could be the very thing that inspires someone else in this community. And finally, if you enjoyed this deep dive and you want more practical, science-backed content to help you live a healthier, more vibrant life, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the little notification bell so you never miss a video. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Here's to your strength, here's to your health, and I'll see you in the next video.